The older I get, the more I love finding joy in the little things. Perfect example is this tiny box of crayons that I got for $2 at Vinnie's. Vinnie's is an Australian op shop, and I found a really good one that had a ton of really cool stuff. So I went back there a whole bunch of times on my trip just to browse because I love thrifting. And one of the things I bought was this super cute small box of vintage crayons for only $2 Australian. So in US money, it's about $1.33. So it was such a bargain and just such a cool find because I just totally adore this. I love this box so much. I haven't even opened it yet. I love the retro graphic design with the bold colors and the simplified shapes. It's just so whimsical and cute. And I also just like how this box feels as an object, just in and of itself. It just feels good in the hand because it's so small. And I love those worn edges. Just feels like it has a sense of age and history to it. Even though it feels like the crayons haven't even been used yet, the box feels completely full. And I also like that it kind of contains a mystery because I don't know anything about these crayons. I don't know what they're going to be like. I don't have high hopes for the quality. I'm realistic on that front, but I think they'll be a lot of fun to experiment with and explore and just see what happens. So today I'm going to open up this box of crayons for the very first time and make some art with them. And I'm going to use them in this tiny sketchbook. I got this in Australia. I found it at the gift shop of the National Museum of Australia, and my mother-in-law actually bought it for me, so thanks, Lynn. It's handmade by Aboriginal artist Marie Oliver, and I just love the vibrant colors and the organic patterns of the cover of this sketchbook. And it's so tiny, it just fits so well in the palm of my hand. So it's really portable and really fun. And together, these two items are just such a perfect pair. They're both tiny, they're both art-related, and they're so adorable. They tick all the boxes for me. And this one's retro, and this one's handmade. They just go so well together. And in honor of the retro vintage handmade vibes of this occasion, I'm wearing this vintage top that I found on Etsy. I really love it. I was so excited when I saw it on Etsy and it happened to be my size. And what's really funny is the very next day, I saw this crochet pattern on Pinterest. So it's kind of like it was meant to be. Okay, here we go. Let's see what these crayons look like. Oh my goodness! Look at that! That is so cute. They look like they haven't been used. I don't know if there's 12 colors in there though. Let's take them out and see. Oh, wow. They are really saturated. Here are all the colors. Very interesting. There's no white. So there's one missing, but that's all right. Now, before I use them in my sketchbook, I'm going to test them on a scrap piece of paper just to see what the colors look like and just to get a feel for them. Okay. So they feel very much like cheap crayons, which I was totally expecting. The colors are light and bright, but they're not very deep or saturated. They create a lot of debris. Look at all that. So situations like this, where there's a lot of these little crumbs, that's when my unicorn brush comes in handy. So I can just take my unicorn and brush it all away. Of course, then that just makes a mess on my desk, but I'll clean that up later. Okay, so here is how all the colors look, and this is just cardstock. So now let me show you the inside of the sketchbook. It's got this handy string for keeping it closed. It's got a lot of paper in it. It's so cute. Just a simple stitch in the middle to hold it all together. Here are some drawings I already made in it. This was my first drawing. It's this little cat wearing a big flower necklace, I guess. I drew this with Derwent Inktense, and I was able to wet the Inktense to activate it, which was really cool. I was just really excited that the paper could handle it. I also drew this little flower creature with the cute little face, and I also did this with Derwent Inktense, and this part was done with paint markers, and so are these gold dots. So it was also really good to note that I could use paint markers in this little sketchbook, because I love using paint markers. And so now on this next page, I'm going to use these vintage crayons. Before I make art with them, I'm going to sharpen some of them because they're already pretty dull. They feel very soft. So there's how it looks sharpened. Okay, so they can get pretty sharp. Makes a big mess though. So here are all the crayon shavings. They're so colorful and vibrant, and I think you know you love art when you love the look of crayon shavings. So now it's time to make some art. I have this idea for something I want to draw. You know, I love berets. If you watch my channel, then you're well aware of that. So I'm going to start out with a beret up here. I think wearing the beret is going to be a mushroom. Just trying to draw some outlines first. You know what? I'm gonna give the mushroom a matching scarf. I think that would be really cute. A little bit blowing off in that direction, like there's wind. I think this is gonna be a really fun idea. And for the mushroom stalk, I think I'll make it purple. Okay, so here is my outline of my little mushroom character. Before I go any further, I want to give it a face. This is a happy mushroom, so I'm going to give it a happy face. You know what? I just realized I kind of made it off center to the stem or the stalk of the mushroom, but I think that's okay. It's like it's turning its head. So I'm finding I can layer the crayons a little bit. Like here I've added yellow, orange, and red to create a sense of highlights and shadows. It's still definitely a challenge though. I'm going to try something on the face here. I want to see what happens if I apply this colorless blender on top. So wish me luck. If all goes well, it should dissolve the binder a bit, spread out the pigment a little. I'm not sure, I think it's doing something. Let me move out to these red areas and see. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know if this experiment really worked, but I think it was totally worth a try. So now I want to see what I can do with his face. The eyes are getting a little bit lost amongst all the pink and red, so see if I can make it darker. I'll use the darker blue. Okay, it's bringing the eyes back a bit. Oh gosh, I don't know how this is turning out. It's looking a little weird. So this mushroom, instead of having white dots on the mushroom cap, it has white dots on its stalk, just for something different. You know, I really adore this mushroom and I would love to explore how it would look using other media. So I'm definitely gonna keep this idea on the back burner for another artwork. I just love the idea of a mushroom wearing a beret and a scarf. One thing I'm discovering is that the more layers of color that I add, by this point I can start pressing harder and it really saturates the paper in a really lovely way, actually. This is so silly, this drawing. But I like silly things. I love drawing little cute characters like this. I'd love to know if you love cute characters too. Like if that's your thing. I know it's not everyone's thing, but I, as you know, totally love cute things. I also really love working with color, and it's a really cool exercise to limit yourself in terms of the number of colors that you use. And so here with this experiment, I was automatically limited to just the colors that were in this box. So the challenge for me is just to see what I can do with them and to see how they work together. You know, there's one more thing I'm going to do before I call this finished, and that is I'm going to take a white paint pen and just add some tiny highlights in the eyes. Because I find that just the simple act of adding tiny white dots to eyes can really help bring them to life. And paint markers like this Posca 1M are perfect for adding tiny dots to your artwork. Okay, so here is my very first retro vintage crayon drawing in this sketchbook. It was definitely a challenge, but it was super fun to just play around with it and see what I could do with these old crayons. That was a lot of fun, but now I want to give myself another challenge and see if I can draw this eye using these vintage crayons. I know it'll be hard to make it look truly realistic because I don't have the right colors, so I'm going to get a little creative there, but it'll be really interesting to see what I could do. So for this drawing, I will do it in landscape format. I'm going to start with a light brown, mark out where the iris will be. Really not going to worry about getting this totally perfect or anything, just meant to be a fun exercise. And I do really like drawing eyes. There's something just really satisfying when the eye just comes together and looks realistic. I'm really not quite sure what kind of drawing paper this is in the sketchbook. It's pretty decent, has a texture to it. It seems mostly okay. It's probably not something I would choose to draw on normally, but as we've said, it's really great to go out of your comfort zone and try things that you just wouldn't normally try. Whenever I draw an eye, I always sketch the outline and then I like to focus on the iris. Because once you get the iris done, then you can really see the eye coming to life. And there's just something so satisfying about that. This is like a dark blue color, and I really like it for adding shadows and creating some depth. So I'm remembering from last time, from my little mushroom character, that the colors start to become more opaque and saturated the more you layer them on top of each other. So I'm just being aware of that as I work my way around this eye, just building up my colors. And I do want to get creative with it. I'm not going to just completely mimic what's in the photo. All art goes through a phase where it just starts looking kind of weird. And I feel like this eye is at that stage right now. But the key is to just push past this awkward stage. Because when an artwork looks awkward, it's easy to just want to give up. But the more you make art, the more you realize that every single piece of art you make is going to go through an awkward phase. It's just part of it. You get used to it. I really like how this red can layer on top of the other colors. That is pretty cool. Some of these crayons definitely feel more creamy than others. So working with these crayons is certainly a challenge. And I love a good art challenge. I think it's really great to go outside your comfort zone now and then, because it's really easy to just get stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes that's fun, honestly. Sometimes I love drawing the same thing over and over again. But sometimes you just gotta shake things up a bit. And that's what I'm doing today by trying these crayons. I think it's also fun to just do little silly drawings that don't have to have any deep meaning or purpose. You don't have to worry about making it all perfectionistic. And that's also part of the joy of doing tiny art as well. It's one of the things I love about it. It's liberating because you only have to think about this very small space. Because the thing is, when you're confined to such a small space, you're limited, but that limitation is actually liberating. Because when you have a lot of space to work with, it can almost be paralyzing sometimes, just trying to think of how you're going to fill like this huge, large space. But when you're working on a small scale like this, you can just have fun with it, not take it too seriously. At least that's how I feel about it. I do feel like this eye is getting a little bit muddy, with all colors sort of overlapping and mixing in a really chaotic way. But I'm hoping it'll all come together in the end, so we'll see what happens. So for me, the appeal of tiny art is also, there's just so much less pressure. It just feels more fun, which means you can explore new ideas and you can explore them quickly. And even though I'm the kind of person I could honestly happily spend months and months on a single artwork. I mean, I have artworks that I literally spent months on in college and never finished. Because for me, it's all about the process. I just love that feeling of getting immersed in the artwork. So it's not like I just always want to rush and create a work of art quickly or anything, but I do love that with tiny art, you can finish the artwork much more quickly. So you can start and complete an entire artwork in just one sitting, which honestly feels like a really awesome win. And we all need wins now and then. It feels good to feel like you accomplished something. This is like the weirdest looking eye so far. Totally awkward, but I am gonna keep going. Another thing that I love about making tiny art is that it helps you sustain a daily art practice. If you work on a smaller scale, then it's much more achievable to make art every day. And another great thing about making tiny art is that you can think of them as like little thumbnails for larger pieces that you might do later. So yeah, making tiny art is such a wonderful way to explore different ideas, to plan out art for larger pieces, to experiment with different media, and to just let loose, just let your brain relax and have fun. And not everyone likes making tiny art, and that's okay too. I know that some people are much more suited to grand movements with their arm, grand gestures, just splashing art on a canvas or something. And that does feel good too. So it depends if you prefer more of those big movements or like tighter controlled movements. Now I'm going to try doing a scraping technique using this little paper cutting tool. Just going to try to scrape away. Oh yeah, that is working super duper well. Basically what I'm doing is just very carefully trying to scrape away some of the crayon. This is great for creating these highlights. It's slippery though. All these layers of crayon are quite slick, so it's easy for the tool to slide around a little bit. But I think I'm mostly achieving the look I want. which makes me happy. The key to using a cutting tool like this on your drawing paper is to not cut so deep that you tear the paper. So I'm trying to be really careful, trying to be really aware of that, not pressing too hard. I'll also link to this little paper cutting tool in the description. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know whether you like making tiny art, or would you find this just like insanely frustrating? Because like I said, I know tiny art is definitely not for everyone. Not sure about that green there, so I'm just gonna scrape it off. Look how easily that came off. That was pretty cool. Just using my fingernail. Green was just not the right color for that area. I like this magenta here much more. The ability to scrape off crayon once you have a certain amount of layers is a really cool characteristic of crayons because it makes them more forgiving, being able to just scrape away something and then start again. This crayon isn't super sharp, so it's making the eyelashes a little bit thicker than they should be, but I'm gonna see if I can scrape some of that away. So if you're enjoying this video, it would really mean a lot to me if you hit the like button, because that helps the algorithm know that this is a cool video that other people should watch too. So it helps push out the video to more people. It's just a really simple, easy way to help support your favorite creators. And so if you do hit the like button, thank you. I really appreciate it. Honestly, it really means a lot to me. I try not to get hung up on likes or views or anything like that, but it is something that I notice. And it does serve as a metric for how well my videos are being received. You know, there comes a time with an artwork when you just have to call it done, because you just keep fiddling and fiddling. So, you know, I probably could have called this done like 10 minutes ago. But gosh, I just love continuing to fuss with it and tweak things. But with this medium, it's just gotten to the point where I have so many layers that adding more layers isn't really working anymore, which is fine. I think that's just a sign that this is done. So what do you think? That's my second artwork I created using these vintage crayons. And, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I'm happy with it. It's not perfect, obviously, but, you know, it was a good effort, good experiment, and it really rejuvenated my interest in kids' crayons. I've done a couple of Crayola crayon videos on this channel, so definitely check that out if you're interested, because it is really cool to see what you could do with this kids' art product. They can be super fun to experiment with, and they might surprise you. So thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed exploring these tiny, cute little art supplies with me, because I know I did. And I mentioned earlier how working on a small scale can be really liberating. And there's actually something else you can do if you want to welcome in that feeling of experimentation. And that is what I talk about in this video. So check it out if that interests you, and I'll see you next time.